Glassdoor estimates the base pay of an electrical engineer in the US to be $95,000, which makes electrical engineering a very lucrative job. What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. Sadia here. I'm an electrical engineer doing Ph.D. in machine learning, and on this channel I usually talk about engineering, machine learning, and some of the highly paid scholarships in our field. Today we are talking about how much salary I can expect when I graduate as an electrical engineer. Well, according to Glassdoor, I can expect an almost six-figure salary when I graduate with a Ph.D. But I can tell you, this life is not for everybody. I've been studying electrical engineering for the past 9 years with 2 more years to go, and I've also taught electrical engineering at one of the most prestigious institutes in Pakistan. It's called Ghulam Institute of Engineering, Sciences and Technology, and I want to talk about why electrical engineering is not for everybody. Don't get me wrong, life as an electrical engineering is not without perks. It is one of the most highly paid jobs in the world. An electrical engineer at Apple makes $148,000 on average per year, with some of the senior engineers making as high as over $200,000 a year. So it is one of the most well-paid jobs in the world. But I want to talk to you about 5 reasons why you should not become an electrical engineer. Well, for starters, it's a simple rule of demand versus supply. The rate of growth in electrical engineering worldwide is almost 7%, which is about average for any field. In Canada, according to the labor market assessment, between 2019 to 2028, there will be about 13,000 new jobs for electrical engineers, and there will be about 16,000 people applying for those jobs. That estimate includes both immigrants as well as the engineers graduating within Canada. The situation is not very bad in Canada. Yes, there are more people applying for the jobs than there are the jobs, but it's still a pretty balanced estimate. The situation is not the same worldwide. There are about 271,000 electrical engineers right now, but the rate of growth in electrical engineering graduates is much higher in countries like India and Pakistan than there is the demand for electrical engineering there. So simply, way too many people are graduating as electrical engineers compared to the number of jobs that are available for electrical engineers. That makes a lot of electrical engineers out of job. And usually when you see the statistics, when you Google anything about how many jobs are there for electrical engineering, how much demand is there for electrical engineering, it will usually give you the search results from countries like US, Canada, other such countries where demand and supply is very balanced. And that can put people in Pakistan and India and other such countries at disadvantage, to say the least. A lot of people want to become electrical engineers to get well-paid jobs and excel in life and make a lot of money, and that brings me to my reason number 2. While the life of electrical engineers in Silicon Valley might be all dreamy and rich, the situation is quite different in countries like India and Pakistan. Only 3% people get quality technical jobs in India as electrical engineers according to Times of India. I couldn't find the statistics about Pakistan, but the situation is quite same. I can tell you from my personal experience that more than 50% of my fellows ended up switching careers. The competition in the field is very, very high. So if there is one job and there are 50 people applying for the job, of course it's going to be very competitive, and only the best of the best will be able to get the jobs they want as electrical engineers, and the rest will be forced to either switch careers or work at jobs that don't even require the level of skill that they studied to become an electrical engineer. And that brings me to my reason number 3, which is the difficulty or the math intensiveness of electrical engineering. Don't get me wrong, all engineering fields are difficult. All engineering fields require a lot of math, a lot of physics, and they are all very difficult to get through. But electrical engineering is particularly math intensive. The American Society for Engineering Education found out that 40 to 50% of engineering students drop out or change their majors. Electrical engineering is particularly known for being heavy on trigonometry, calculus, and math that progressively becomes more and more nonlinear. In nonlinear math, the exact solutions are hard to come by. Electrical engineering also uses partial differential equations more frequently than other engineering majors. These equations are notoriously abstract and difficult to imagine. They are used to model physical phenomena and take several variables into account as functions, for example, electrodynamics, heat, sound, temperatures, and yet the exact solutions of these equations can never truly be found, and they are notoriously difficult to think in terms of physical phenomena conceptually. Compared to other engineering majors like civil engineering or mechanical engineering, where you have an idea of what you're trying to build and then you can physically see and touch the things that you're building, electrical engineering a lot of the times involves a lot of abstract thinking. When you're just imagining things and you can't physically see it work, it just becomes way too difficult. And also, the programming courses in electrical engineering don't just teach you to program the software. Programming extends to hardware programming languages such as Verilog and BSTL. When you're programming things on hardware level, whatever works in theory doesn't always work in hardware, so it can be very, very frustrating for a lot of people. Also, courses like microwave engineering or electromagnetic field theory will frustrate you even more. So there are these things that require both theory and practical, and what works in theory doesn't work in practical, and it can make you very, very frustrated at times. My fourth reason for not recommending electrical engineering as a career is job satisfaction. What I mean by that is the happiness index, how happy you are with your work, with your life as an electrical engineer. And don't just trust me on this. Career Explore conducted a survey where they asked people to rate their work based on 5 parameters of happiness. These parameters were salary, meaning, personality fit, work environment, and skill utilization. While most electrical engineers were happy with their salaries, they rated the meaning to the lowest, only 2.8. As it turns out, electrical engineers overall rated 3.1 out of 5, which puts them at the bottom 40%. So why are so many electrical engineers not happy with their jobs? Well, the reason may not be obvious. Some other fields are as difficult as electrical engineering or even more. For example, medical students probably spend an equal amount of difficulty or more to become doctors, but when they are working as doctors, they do have this sense of meaning in their lives that we are saving lives. While the work of electrical engineers also does save lives, the results may not be immediate, especially for those of us who are working on the research side in electrical engineering. The work that we do in R&D departments usually doesn't turn up into a practical reality for the next 10 to 20 years. So this can put us in a sense that my work is not meaningful, because a lot of the research that we do will probably never be implemented. Your work can be immediately implementable, but you may not see the results firsthand. For example, during my master's, I was working on ionospheric research that in the end, I was only predicting the total electron content, the density of electrons in ionosphere, using some parameters like F0, F2, HMF2, and some other parameters. I was using techniques like Kriging and co-Kriging to create these high density maps for electron content in ionosphere. The impact of the work is immense because this data can then make GPS more accurate. It can then enable automatic flight landings, which is not yet possible. And if we can make GPS more accurate through this, if we can accurately predict total electron content, it can make automatic landings also possible. This data can also prevent earthquakes. Well, it cannot really prevent earthquakes, but it can predict when there's going to be an earthquake, and it can help with the evacuation efforts. So literally, this work does save lives. The work I did during my master's is implemented right now, and the electron density that I predicted is being used to save many, many lives, but I won't see the first-hand impact of it. It can leave me feeling that my work is not meaningful. I'm planning to make more videos about my master's, my PhD, about machine learning, and about some scholarships. So if that is something that interests you, you might want to subscribe. And that now brings me to my fifth and final reason. Enter any environmental engineering class. Chances are you will find almost 50% girls, almost 50% guys. Tell me if you can tell the difference between guys and girls even. You see where I'm going with this. Electrical engineering is a heavily male-dominated field. There are 88% guys to only 12% girls. So maybe you're a girl who doesn't want to be the only girl working on an oil rig surrounded by 100 men for the next 30 days before you get your 1 week holiday. Or maybe you're a man who doesn't want a workplace which is so heavily male dominated. Electrical engineering has one of the widest gender gap as far as I know, and this gap is increasing instead of decreasing, which is a very concerning situation. So you might want to consider the kind of work environment you will be working in if you're planning to join electrical engineering. Doesn't matter you're a guy or a girl or anyone, you might want to consider the gender related statistics in the field before choosing electrical engineering as a field, because your work environment will be something you have to live with for the rest of your life unless you decide to switch careers, which a lot of electrical engineers end up doing mid-careers. Almost 40 to 50% electrical engineers end up switching either to some management positions or entirely switch careers and choose another field and just leave. And such a high trend of people leaving electrical engineering to become something else has probably something to do with this gender gap as well. I hope you learned something from this video, and I hope I gave you something that makes your decision to become electrical engineer or not a bit easier. If you learned something from this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if I have scared you way too much with this gender gap in electrical engineering, I will link a video here which tells you how to survive engineering as a girl if you're still planning to become an electrical engineer. See you next time.